The first thing I wrote in my notes when I was working on this was just how small Kayvon Thibodeaux looks on an NFL field. I didn't really think of him as a severely undersized guy when I watched him at Oregon. He seemed bigger or just the same size as everybody else in the Pac-12. And I know the testing numbers were the testing numbers, and he was in the 20th percentile for weight, and he was in the 34th percentile for arm length. But I was not quite able to picture what that looks like on an NFL field until I actually was able to see it. And he's not the smallest edge rusher in the league. He's not like Nolan Smith or anything like that. But when you watch him like go up against a bigger tight end in Mo Alley Cox here, it's pretty clear that he is just the smaller player. And that's not the end of the world, but it's just hard to physically overwhelm a lot of tackles when you are smaller than them. That's just the way it is. I think frame is an important part of playing football, and I think it's something you have to know when you're comparing Kayvon Thibodeaux to the other guys at the top of the 2022 draft class, specifically Travon Walker. Because when I took my notes on Travon Walker, one of the things I wrote down was the guy is just huge. Look at him next to Taylor Decker. He's just as big, if not bigger. And then you look at the same guy next to Kayvon, and it's clear that Thibodeaux is just not as physically imposing, and it's going to be a little bit harder for him to generate power. With that being said, though, pound for pound, Kayvon Thibodeaux is still a very strong guy. He packs a punch for a guy his size. And when he gets low and gets those arms extended, watch out. Here, he gets right in the backup right tackle's frame, and then he's got a really powerful lower half to drive those legs, and crunch this pocket on Kirk Cousins. Kirk is able to get the ball out, but if he had to hold it for any reason, Thibodeaux would have delivered that right tackle right into his lap. Here's another example of him collapsing the pocket. He's going up against Tyler Smith, who was a really promising left tackle last year and a very stout guy. And Kayvon Thibodeaux gets off the ball so fast. His hand placement is real good. He's not quite as low as he could be, I think, here. But despite that, he's able to drive those legs, drive 73 backwards. Bother Dak right here. He can't totally step into this the way he wants to. Maybe this needed a little bit more on it. It hits the defender carrying CD up the seam. Bounces up in the air and is picked. And I think Kayvon Thibodeaux can claim a little bit of responsibility for this happening. And then not only do you have his power rushes, but I'm pleasantly surprised with how he's able to use his hands to disengage. Like on this play versus Charles Leno, who's a pretty good left tackle, you initially see the power with the little jab right there. Extends his arms, kind of stuns Leno a little bit, knocks him backwards. Kayvon Thibodeaux and Leno are completely disengaged from each other here. And then when Leno tries to readjust, you see Kayvon's hand knock his arm down, rip through the contact, and then he's very coordinated. He's able to do that, lunge, strip the ball, find the ball, pick up the ball, and then score the touchdown. Here's another really good example, again, versus Tyler Smith. Not only of his power, because he shows that at the beginning, right here. This is a great bull rush look to be in if you're the defensive lineman. Pad level is low. You're the low man. The hand placement is perfect in the shoulder pads of the offensive tackle. He's able to extend his arms and knock Tyler Smith backwards a little bit. And he's not driving him back into Dak here, which would be fine, but if you're driving him back, the tackle is still in between you as the defensive end and the quarterback. If you're able to disengage, you can get not only a pressure, but a sack. And then you can see him kind of torque Tyler Smith out of the way, flatten his angle a little bit so he's a little bit softer in terms of his relationship with the line of scrimmage. So that's a better angle to move around him. So he's able to turn him out of the way a little bit, take his hands away, pull himself through, and not only smack him in the mouth here, but then disengage. And this is a really quick win, even though it doesn't really result in pressure because Dak gets the ball out so fast. Doesn't take anything away from how nice Kayvon is able to get by Tyler Smith right there. So he's got that kind of jab and pull through, and then he's got kind of a variation of that where he doesn't use any power at all, but he looks like he's about to. He takes a few steps up the field, then he takes a big step and starts angling this in right towards the tackle, Mulata. Mulata braces himself. You can see how his feet change from moving up the field to settling down. The punch starts, but Kayvon doesn't ever bring the power. He springs off that back leg, hops to the outside shoulder, swipes the punch away, then rips through. He's got an angle to Hurts. He's able to hold his line even though Mulata is pushing on him. And once again, this time he flushes Hurts forward, and it's actually a sack. Here it is again, a little hezzy, freeze Mulata, then win around the outside shoulder, hold the line. And then I really like this rep from Thibodeaux as well, as he lays a big hit on Geno Smith. He's going up against Charles Cross, a fellow top 10 member of the 2022 class, and he doesn't win with power here. He doesn't lay the hit on Geno with any kind of get-off. He's pretty casual at the line of scrimmage. It's literally just a big chop, counter inside, try to throw cross up field before he can readjust, bring that hand down again, rip through the contact, and then string all those moves together, and you've got an open path to the quarterback here. In the future, I'd like to see this maybe a little bit faster, slightly more violent, but all the moves are there. They all landed, and he was able to create separation, counter inside, and get a QB hit. Now, this is a dime from Geno anyway, but still good from Kayvon Thibodeaux. So I would say he's coming along as a pass rusher. He's not great at it yet, and he's got some weaknesses that I'll get into, but he's got that famous first step. He's always got eyes on the center before the snap and has really good reaction time. He's always able to jump it and attack that outside shoulder quickly. He's a load to deal with right away. And then he's able to convert that to power. And then he's got some moves to kind of work off of that and win around the outside shoulder. And he's got the strength to hold his line up the arc and around the corner. So, yeah, definitely a positive force for the Giants' defensive line right away. And then as a run defender, I might like him even more. At the college level, there really weren't any tackles who could keep up with him. So a lot of times what offenses would do would make him the read man and try to option him, just pat his feet and kind of take him out of the play like that. And so he's really good at dealing with it. And Washington tried to make him the read man a lot, and he just killed them in this game. And then in more traditional run defending situations, his hand placement is good, his anchor is wide, he's able to read into the backfield and then disengage, make the tackle. This one is not a running play actually, but it's blocked like it is, so I still think it can tell us something. Like I've mentioned before, he's a lot smaller than Jordan Mailata, but it doesn't matter because he's got good technique. He's got proactive hands. Again, the hand placement is perfect. He's playing with proper knee bend here. He's got a wide base. So even though Mailata is the bigger guy at the point of attack, Kayvon is still in control of his situation, right? He's got eyes in the backfield. He's reading things out. He sees that this is, in fact, not a running play. Then he tries to shed Mailata and try a pass rushing move to get to Hurts. At that point, he gets a little bit washed out of it, but I'm still impressed with how he's able to hold up at the point of first contact here, right? The point of attack. As a slighter guy, he's not always quite so stout, and on this play, I think Mailata gets the better of him. Here, his pad level could be a little bit lower, his base could be a little bit wider at the point of attack, and then Mailata's kind of able to drive him backwards and then turn him away from the play. But he does pretty well for himself for a rookie of his size. And then on top of all that, he plays with really good effort. He's not quite able to stop the jet sweep in the backfield here, but he keeps at it, runs all the way down the field to make the tackle on the wide receiver, Zay Jones. So right now, I would say he's a neutral pass rusher, a slightly above average run defender, and then he's also weirdly good in coverage. Here he is as an outside linebacker in a true 4-3 type of front here for the Giants, and they're going to ask him to drop back, and he carries the wide receiver down the field until it's the proper depth. He peels off, sees the running back in the flat, and then is able to close on that, and it all happens pretty smoothly. Like, he looks really comfortable back there. So those are just a assortment of clips that I think shows off the good in Kayvon Thibodeaux. And before we get into the weaknesses section, I just want to reiterate, there is a lot of good in Kayvon Thibodeaux. To summarize, I'm very bullish on his future because I think he's already a quality 3-down starter. He can pin his ears back against the pass. You don't have to take him off the field during the run, and he can drop back in coverage. You can do whatever you want with him. So I just can't imagine that he's not a good starter in this league for a long time because he already is one. And there's no reason not to believe he won't continue to get better. But I wouldn't quite say the sky's the limit. He just doesn't move like a lot of the top guys in the league. I think he's a little bit more stiff. I think that he's more of a linear athlete than a fluid one. He's not someone who's very bendy. Like, when he tries to win around the outside shoulder, it's not really with bend. It's like try to set him up and then hezzy and then go outside and try to hold your line as they're trying to push you up the arc. Like, win with strength around the corner instead of bend around the corner. And it's a little bit faster and more effective to win with bend. He just doesn't do it very much. Like, a lot of times what he'll do is he'll just take a straight shot right at the quarterback. It's not a couple steps upfield and then turn. It's just, straight line, very linear, go get it, and rely on strength to get there instead of, dipping the shoulder. Kayvon Thibodeaux to me just isn't quite big or long enough to be an elite speed to power guy like Rashawn Gary is on this example here. Nor does Kayvon have quite the elasticity that the elite undersized guys like Brian Burns and Hassan Reddick have. So what trait can he lean on to be like an all-pro type of player? I could definitely get talked into buying Kayvon Thibodeaux the Pro Bowler stock, but I could not buy stock in Kayvon Thibodeaux, the 15 sack All-Pro. I just don't think he has those type of physical tools. But that's kind of a ways down the line that we have to worry about him hitting his ceiling. As far as getting better from his rookie year to his second year, one thing that I think he could do is learn how to counter inside a little bit more frequently. He seemingly always goes for that outside shoulder, and a lot of the times just ends up overshooting everybody. This is a good example against Sam Ehlinger, where he is very shallow in the pocket. He's stepping up, and after the bull rush, I would like to see him, create knockback and work inside. Instead, when the quarterback is, shallow in the pocket, he's still trying that pull and rip through move, only to see that the quarterback's not there. Eventually, he doubles back, but I'd like to see him come to this realization a little bit sooner. Now, Dexter Lawrence, who I really think is the superstar of that defensive line, like he's really special, is able to kick it into high gear and just, be a lava flow and take down Ehlinger. But I think that Thibodeaux, I'd like to see him attack that inside shoulder a lot more than he does. And I guess I don't know, maybe Wink Martindale specifically is telling him, Kayvon, always get upfield and force the quarterback to step up, because we've got Dexter Lawrence and we've got Leonard Williams. So maybe he's being specifically instructed to take that kind of path and force quarterbacks to step up, because that's just the way the rush is drawn up. It wouldn't surprise me, considering the strengths of their edges and their defensive tackles and what they're good at. But coaching point or not, at some point he's going to have to learn how to start upfield and then work back against the grain, because right now he's overshooting quarterbacks all of the time, and he's never going to have a bunch of personal accolades if he's playing like that. What I really want to see more of next year from Kayvon Thibodeaux are more plays like the first one I showed versus Charles Cross, where he used hand fighting to cut back inside and lay a hit on Geno Smith. I like what he did with his hands in year one. You saw him go from jab to chop to rip in quick succession and beat guys. I liked that. But there's still a lot more moves that you just don't see very often with Kayvon Thibodeaux. He's capable of adding a lot more to his arsenal, I think. So just continue to do that. Work back inside a little bit more, and I think that he's going to be all right. As far as a grade for this pick, I'm going to give it a B+ for the Giants. I think it's going pretty well so far. I think they should be happy with the pick, considering the edges taken after Kayvon. Obviously, there's a small handful of players that you probably would take over him in this draft class, maybe a Tariq Woolen, a Garrett Wilson, certainly. But I don't think the Giants should be unhappy, so I'm giving it a high B. Again, the fact that there were some better players drafted behind him and the fact that maybe he doesn't have the highest of high ceilings makes this not quite an A pick, but I don't think you can be mad at a B+. A good pick for the Giants for sure. So that's all I got for this week. Subscribe to Stay Hot on YouTube. We got an Instagram, we got a TikTok, we're on Chalkboard. Download that app if you haven't. We're absolutely everywhere, so appreciate a subscription anywhere. So thank you so much for watching. Next week I'll be here with Aiden Hutchinson to kind of complete this trilogy of the highly drafted edges, and I'll see you then. Thank you so much for watching.